I have always used standard iPhones, whether it was the iPhone 7, the iPhone 12 mini, or the iPhone 14. I've never used a Pro iPhone before. So over the next week, I'll be switching to a Pro iPhone to figure out whether it's worth the upgrade and whether you should upgrade to a Pro phone as well. I'm Upwards, and let's get into this video. I've transferred everything over to the Pro and my SIM card is now in it. Now before we start the week, here are the main differences between a standard iPhone and a Pro iPhone. There are 5 differences that Apple uses to differentiate between a standard and a Pro iPhone. These are the design, display, the chipset, the cameras, and the battery life. I'll be focusing on the display, the chipset, the cameras, and the battery life, as these are the 4 main areas to consider when purchasing a phone, and it will be the 4 areas I'll be using to measure and compare my experience between the 2 phones. I'll be using the Pro iPhone throughout the week for all my daily tasks, usages, and so on, to get a good grasp of its capabilities. Alright, with what we know we're looking for, let's go! Let's start off with the first difference, the display. One feature I was the most excited about was the display on the Pro iPhones. Apple has given the Pro iPhones a ProMotion display, which is a 120Hz refresh rate display ever since the iPhone 13 Pro, giving the Pro iPhones a much smoother and higher refreshing display. Not only does it make content look better and scrolling smoother, the current Pro iPhones also have LTPO technology, which means the refresh rate can dynamically change depending on the content that you are viewing. This means it's more efficient and allows for more cool features such as an always-on display and standby mode. Going from a standard iPhone which has a 60Hz refresh rate display, the Pro iPhone feels a lot smoother and faster in general. It makes scrolling look so much better and it has a huge difference for me. Although I do admit some people may not notice. But for people who use high refresh rate displays such as monitors and laptops, the 120Hz on the Pro iPhone will be appreciated. Some people say that going back to a 60Hz refresh rate display after using ProMotion on the Pro iPhones is tragic, but personally I got used to 60Hz after a few days. It's just straight after using 120Hz that makes a 60Hz display on the standard iPhones look so much worse at first. The question is it worth it? For someone who doesn't know anything about 120Hz refresh rate displays, no. But for anyone who does know and has used one before, it is definitely worth the upgrade. Alright, with the display out of the way, let's talk about performance. The Pro iPhones always get the latest end chips, while the standard gets last year's top chips. But when it comes to iPhone performance, I've never had an issue. And frankly, performance has always been one of the iPhone's biggest strengths. Using my phone for daily tasks like browsing the internet, listening to music, and scrolling social media, I didn't have any issues. Opening applications and the camera app is super quick, just like my standard iPhone, so no issues there. The only area where the latest chips would show an edge would be in gaming. However, I don't really play mobile games, so I couldn't really tell. The performance on the standard phones is so good that I didn't really feel any difference on the Pro iPhone. So who would buy a Pro iPhone for performance? Honestly, if you're just like me and use your phone for day-to-day tasks such as scrolling the internet and using social media, there isn't too many reasons why you should buy a Pro iPhone for performance. But if you plan on playing a lot of games and you want to future-proof your phone for as long as possible, upgrading to a Pro iPhone for performance does make sense. Alright, so we've taken a look at performance, but now let's take a look at the cameras, which is one of the biggest physical differences between a standard and a Pro iPhone. So let's see if they actually make any difference. The first difference in cameras is that the Pro iPhone has a dedicated telephoto lens, which allows for an optical zoom for images and videos. For me, having a dedicated zoom lens really makes a difference. I didn't realize how much better having a zoom lens without degradation was, and I ended up using the zoom a lot more and being happy with the results. The next difference is that the ultra-wide lens on the Pro models have autofocus, unlike the standard iPhone, which has a fixed focus. This allows the Pro models to be able to take macro photos, which is definitely a bonus that is handy to use in cases where I need to take a photo of something closely. I also ended up using this feature much more than I expected, and when I went back to my standard iPhone, I kept trying to take more macro photos, forgetting I can't. Next, the main sensor on the Pro iPhones are much bigger than the standard iPhones, allowing for more light and details to be captured. A bigger sensor typically allows a more natural depth of field to be created. Lastly, the Pro iPhones come with a bigger and brighter adaptive flash and a lighter scanner. In real-world usage, I didn't really come across the need to use these, but having them is definitely a bonus. especially for night photography and video, where the iPhone relies on these two features to get good shots. When it comes to cameras, I would definitely say that the Pro iPhones have an advantage and an edge that makes it worth upgrading to. If you like to take lots of photos and videos and want to have as many features and options available to you, the Pro iPhone is the way to go. Having an ultra-wide lens that autofocuses, a dedicated optical zoom telephoto lens, along with adaptive flash and LiDAR scanner, makes the Pro iPhone a good choice to upgrade to. And to wrap up things, let's take a look at battery life performance and see what the differences are. Apple claims that the Pro iPhones have better battery life than their standard counterparts. But is it really true? Both models have similar battery capacities, and the chip differences don't really make a huge impact on battery life. So after using the Pro iPhone for a few days, I can safely say there is a minimal difference. I was getting the same amount of battery life as my standard iPhone doing the same task, ending the day around 20% after 4 to 5 hours of screen on time, and ending the day with 40% after 3 to 4 hours of screen on time. Keep in mind that I did have always on display turned on, which may have a slight impact on battery usage. But even if it did have an impact, the difference still remains within a margin of error. If you are buying a Pro iPhone for battery life, don't. There isn't enough of a difference between the Pro and standard iPhone to justify buying a Pro iPhone just for battery life. When it comes to choosing between a standard and a Pro iPhone, it really comes down to two features: the display and the cameras. The 120Hz refresh rate ProMotion display can be a huge feature for people who are used to this technology, making upgrading to a Pro iPhone a good choice. But what really separates the two from each other and why I will be choosing a Pro iPhone from now on is the cameras. Having more features and options than the standard iPhone makes a world of difference for people who like to take lots of photos and videos. If you want to be able to take photos from really close to really far, the Pro iPhone can do it all. If these two features are important to you, I would recommend buying a Pro iPhone. I'm Upwards, and that's it for this video. I hope this video helps you make a good choice on which iPhone you need, and I'll see you guys in the next video.